In the last screencast, we talked about how it may well be necessary for the government to provide public goods because of the free rider problem. Markets generally do a fairly poor job of providing the sufficient quantity of public goods. Some are provided, but less than optimal. You can think of a public good as like an extreme positive externality case. Nevertheless, there are some private institutions that exist to attempt to provide public goods. Actually, charitable foundations, probably every single one of their missions could be described as doing just that. So one possibility is trying to fund the provision of a public good through donation. I've got OPB pledge drive, phone bank. This is my picture here, and that's a somewhat successful way of doing it. We have actually Portland has great public radio. I almost only listen to public radio. That's what happens when you get old. There's a great jazz station, KMHD. There's a great classical station, which is what I listen to 90% of the time. Can't remember the call letters, though. It's allclassical.com is the website. There's a news, and then there's KBOO, which is a lefty. And they all seem to do pretty well. So that can work, although as the pledge drive, people will tell you that only 25% of the listeners give. Somehow they've figured that out. Other things that the other ways to provide a public good through the private market. One is to figure out how to exclude non-payers. So you think of cable TV and pay-per-view TV. Broadcast TV is a public good in large measure. It's non-excludable, non-rival, but you can provide broadcasting or TV content through cable, and you can put a trap on the cable or a scrambler and exclude listeners and charge people if they want to listen. Now, one of the taps asks you to think through that case and shows that the pay-per-view will provide an insufficient number of episodes of Masterpiece Theater. I'll leave that to you to figure out. Private contracting, if a neighborhood is all being developed at the same time, developers actually, that incentive to create a proper set of amenities is in the moment of development is present for the developer. They can get a higher price if they create a desirable set of amenities, and so we see a lot of developments that have neighborhood agreements that people have to sign, and neighborhood to live in those developments you have to kick in a certain amount into the neighborhood kitty to provide whatever the neighborhood swimming pool, the neighborhood sport court. Often there's landscaping. Can be fresh paint job required of everybody. Anyway, a lot of desirable features, and so that's one way to do it. Gated communities provide their own security, which is the substitute for police that we pay generally through taxes, and it's a good that has many public good aspects, even though you could have a police service or a fire service that refused to come if a non-subscriber got robbed, say, if it's police. Actually, a lot of rural fire districts, if you're not in the fire district, if your house burns down, they just let it burn because you didn't pay your dues, or and you're not in that association. That works in a rural area, not an urban area, because in a rural area you can let something burn without risking the whole neighborhood. In an urban area, you just can't. And then finally, often touted as a great success story in providing a public good through private market system is the provision of broadcast TV funded by advertising. But there's a lot of problems with this. One is explored in the Jerry Springer Masterpiece Theater infomercial example in the homework. Again, I'll let you do that. But another problem is that when you fund TV broadcasting through advertising revenues, you're funding TV broadcasting through corporate sponsorship, and that gives corporations an inordinate amount of power over the information stream that citizenry receives, and that can be a real problem, and it can be a threat to democracy. I was in Spain at the time of a coup attempt, and apparently this is common in coup attempts. The people attempting the coup, besides going in to kill the president and capture the parliament, concurrent with that, they go in and take over the broadcast station so they can control the flow of information to the public. And it's a critical element of a democracy. And if you give corporate power to decide on content, what corporations will sponsor gets broadcast and what they won't doesn't, that can be seen as a threat to a democratic system. I challenge you to watch TV network news and then watch the news that NPR, the NPR radio news compared to other radio news, and then also if you watch the OPB, the PBS is the national organization, the McNeil News Hour, I think it's called now. Used to be McNeil Lair, but Lair retired. Anyway, just examine the difference in content between that public radio, public TV news content that doesn't depend on sponsorship and the private market that is funded by ad revenue. And just think about the difference in content. It's quite alarming. We'll leave it at that. So private markets can sometimes provide some public good, some amount of public good. Usually it seems to be insufficient quantity, and there's some severe systemic concerns when you give the responsibility of a public good over to private markets. Actually, one more pop culture reference, RoboCop, the original RoboCop, is a great exploration of the question of granting to private corporations responsibility for police, fire, etc. That's the whole premise of that movie. It's a great movie. It's a little bit violent, but watch it through the eyes of an economist thinking through the private provision of goods that have a very high degree of public good quality.